Well, hello everyone out there. Welcome to my side of these podcasting streets. I'm your host and friend, DJ Southeast Vince, coming at you from a place called Durham, North Carolina. On this show, I will tackle issues affecting the black race and take on the rhetoric of mainstream liberal black America, the MLBA. How you folks doing? Good to be back. I'm a little distracted right now because I got a little cute little kitty cat down here trying to mess with me, but that's okay. If you would like to be a guest to come on this show, I have no problem with you agreeing with me or disagreeing with me. But if you come on here with character assassinations, ad hominem attacks, trolling, excessive profanity, things of that sort, it will be a very short time on this show for you. Okay. Like I said, I don't care if you agree with me or disagree with me, but just show respect in your questions and comments on this show. Okay. So last week I had to get some things done. That's why I didn't have a show last week. Had a well, I'm not going to go into detail about what I had to get done, but some of these things they probably wouldn't have gotten done if I had a show last week. And sometimes being a husband and whatever, you got to deal with certain things. So that's why I didn't have a show last week, but I'm back today. Give me a second. All right, that should be good. And basically, what I want to talk about today is what I wanted to talk about last week. But as you all know, the news about the death of Jesse Jackson. Yeah, I know that took up a lot of news cycles for about the past week and a half now. And when I heard it, I was on the job and I was helping to load a truck, and the guy was helping to load. He said, "Did you hear?" I said, "What?" He said, "Jesse Jackson died this morning." I said, "What?" I said, "Okay, well, And of course, anybody who is anybody knows who Jesse Jackson is. He's a civil rights icon, so to speak. He fought for civil rights for black people and everything like that. And I became familiar with him in the 80s because at the time, this was in 1984, he was looking to receive the nomination for the Democrat Party. And I forget when it was. I think it was in April or May of that year. I was in the 10th grade, and I was 16 years old. Well, not quite 16. I was still 15, but I was in the 10th grade, and our literature teacher, he wanted to see how we would vote if we were old enough to vote, because at that time, of course, I wasn't old enough to vote. And he wanted to see if we how we would vote. So they had a mock election in our classroom. This is my homeroom classroom. It was a literature class, and so he passed out the votes or whatever they call it, the ballots and everything. And now me, I heard all these people talking about Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson. I didn't know Jesse Jackson that well. I really didn't know him that well, and I was like, and but when I heard that a lot of people were excited about him, the one thing that came to my mind was, I bet a lot of people gonna vote for Jesse Jackson simply because he is black. Now I was thinking like this. I was 14 years old. No, 15. I gotta get my stuff straight. I was 15 years old. And even then, I didn't back then I didn't know the difference between a liberal or conservative or Republican or Democrat. The only thing I knew about Democrats and Republicans back then, all I heard was people saying that Democrats care about black people, Republicans don't. That's all. You know, at that time, Ronald Reagan was he was coming to the end of his first term as president, and I wasn't too keen on Ronald Reagan, but I was like, I ain't voting for I ain't voting for Jesse Jackson either, because a lot of reason, the main reason why people want to vote for Jesse Jackson was because he was black, and I didn't know anything about him being a civil rights icon or anything like that. I was like, man, all I knew was if I'm going to vote for somebody, I need to know what they stand for, which in a way it was kind of hypocritical for me because the person I wanted to vote for was Walter Mondale. And I ain't know thing the first about no Walter Mondale. But he would have been my choice because, I ain't gonna vote for Reagan, but I ain't gonna vote for Jesse Jackson because, a lot of my, fellow students, they're just gonna vote for him simply because he's black. And I said, I'm voting for Mondale. And not too many black people in my class took too kindly to that. I think it was me and at least one other person who said, we're not going to vote for Jesse Jackson. And people didn't like that. And one of my classmates, a black guy, he said, well, I know who won the election in this classroom, but it wasn't going to matter anyway because, we weren't old enough to vote. So it wasn't going to matter anyway. But Jesse Jackson didn't get the nomination. Walter Mondale did. And Walter Mondale has to have been one of the worst candidates for the presidency ever. Walter Mondale, I mean, this guy was pure stupid. He got up there and he said, I'm going to raise taxes. And, he got up there, he made a speech. He said, I'm going to raise taxes and Reagan's going to raise taxes. Reagan's not going to tell you that, but I just told you. Now that I look back on it, I'm like, oh boy, that was stupid, but and when he won the election, I was like, man, no way. When Reagan won the election, I was like, oh man, we got 4 more years of this. But as the years went on, I started to learn a bit about politics. I started to learn a bit more about, who Reagan was. And Reagan was one of our best presidents ever. Definitely in the top 5. Definitely. I'll give that to him. But you see how people can feed off of ignorance, I mean, and that's why they want to keep you dumb. That's why they want to keep you dumb, especially if you're a black person. And I'm not trying to inject race into this. It could be racism on the side of the Democrats. They want to keep us dumb because they want us to keep voting for them so they can keep their power. You got people who are still in power, who were in power when I was a kid. And they're still in power to this day. And you're sitting there like, wait a minute. Why? I remember this dude when I was in high school and he's still running, he's still, doing this thing and whatever. But yeah, I told myself, I said, I'm not going to vote for Jesse Jackson because he's got to show me something more than him being black. And, people tend to label folks like myself as a sellout and Uncle Tom. I got the cat over here playing again. Go on. Go, Pookie. Go on. But they will call people like myself a sellout because I don't favor black folks, so to speak. I don't favor, the black culture or anything like that. I've never really been a fan of black culture. I've never really been a fan of Black History Month or anything like that. And just to be honest with you, I am so glad today is the last day of Black History Month. I am so glad today is, it's going to be over until next year at this time, God willing. But I don't care about, and people usually respond with their, with their feelings when I say stuff like that. And, you know, they'll come up with the gaslighting. They'll come up with the, oh, you just don't like being black. You hate being black and, you know, yada, yada, yada. You're always talking against black people and this and that and everything and all this and the third and whatever. But being a person who wants to adhere to the truth, I have to stay away from the issues of race, really. Now, do I believe that racism is wrong? Yes, I do. Yeah. But if you're going to call racism wrong, you need to speak out on all forms of racism. See, a lot of black people today, they get away, they can get away with a lot because they have this thing that black people cannot be racist. So, you know, you can't correct us on that because we can't be racist because we don't have the power. Which I don't understand what they say what they mean when they say that. Because black people in this country carry just as much power as white people. You know, we have infiltrated all aspects of leadership in this country. So when they say, well, we don't have the power, what do you mean when you say we don't have the power? I hear people, you know, when you tell them about nigger and nigga, you know, they say, well, what we say is nigga. We don't say the nigger, the hard ER. And I say, well, it's still a variation of the same word. But why do you feel like you can say nigga, and if a white person says nigga, you want to fight them or something like that? Oh, we're just trying to take back the power of the word. Take back the power of the word. What do you mean by taking back the power of the word? If a white person can come up to you and say, hey, my nigga, and you go off on the deep end and whatever, and you want to fight them and knock them out and everything and stuff like that, then you're not taking back that power. It's one of the stupidest things I ever seen. I was watching a video the other day, and this kid, he was working, I forgot the name of the restaurant he was working in. It was one of them fast food restaurants, probably Wendy's or something like that. And the police were questioning him because this dude had knocked out a 77-year-old man, and the man ended up dying. And they said, well, why'd you hit him? He said, well, because he called me the N-word. He called me a nigga. And I'm sitting there like, y'all gotta be kidding me. But I thought, you know, when we use the word amongst our own, that we were taking back the power of the word, but for some reason that word still has a lot of power because you go off the deep end when a white person uses it. Now me, I don't use it to refer to anybody. I don't use that word. You're not going to hear me call you a stupid nigga or something like that. You're not going to hear me doing that. There may have been a couple of times I may have slipped up with the tongue, but you're not going to hear me call someone a stupid nigga or look here, you dumb nigga and all that. You're not going to hear me say that. And I listen to these folks, and basically it's an unconscious attempt to absolve themselves of any type of responsibility. That's basically what it is. I'm the victim, so I have permission to do this, but you're the victimizer, so you don't have permission to do this. But since I'm the victim, I can do this, but not you. And these are the same people that get in the face of the police officers when they get pulled over for running a stop sign. But, you know, they feel like they can get away with things they won't let anybody else get away with. It's hypocrisy. It's a double standard. And I listen to these people talk, and I'm like, do you hear yourself talking right now? Do you really hear yourself talking right now? Now, I have no problem with anyone being racist against me. I have no problem at all. I can't control how you feel about me or anything like that. You can call me a dumb nigga. You can call me anything you want to. Put your hands on me, that's a different story. But you can sit there and call me the dumb nigga and this, and you're a sellout, you're an Uncle Tom. Okay, I'm a sellout, I'm an Uncle Tom, but you're not intimidating me. You're just making me that much more willing to talk about this when you start calling me those names. And I mean, it boggles the mind. It really does. But getting back to Mr. Jackson, now, if you want to talk about somebody who's a sellout, an Uncle Ruckus, Oreo, or whatever, you need to look at Mr. Jackson. Now, I know during the Trump years and whatever, during the Trump era, Jesse Jackson has really been kind of quiet. You really haven't heard him say much about Donald Trump. I guess he wants to lead that to. I guess he wanted to lead that to Al Sharpton and Benjamin Crump and Jasmine Crockett and Maxine Waters and all the rest of them. But one of the reasons why I think Jesse Jackson remained quiet on criticizing Trump is because Trump used to be his boy. Well, he used to be Al Sharpton's boy too, but he used to be Trump's boy. When Jesse Jackson announced he was running for president, I think it was 4 years after his first run, but in 1988, one of his biggest contributors was Donald Trump. Donald Trump was one of his biggest contributors. Which I find amazing that a lot of these people that Donald Trump supported back in the day, now they done turned against him. See, Donald Trump, he wasn't a racist until he started running for president in 2016 as a Republican. Oh man, he's running as a Republican. Oh, he's a racist. He's a this. He's a that. Oh yeah, the Central Park Six and 1974. Something about some apartments back then, and they come up with all this stuff to prove to you that Donald Trump is a racist. But during those times when this stuff was going on, a lot of people didn't criticize him for being a racist. They didn't start really criticizing him for being racist until 2016. But Jesse, Donald Trump helped with this campaign. And here's the problem I have with Jesse Jackson. Give me a second. Here's a problem I have with Jesse Jackson. In 1977, I think he did an article in Jet Magazine, and he was talking about the evils of abortion. He was talking about the evils of abortion. And, fast forward about 7 years later, his mind had already changed about abortion. And this is what I think happened. He wanted to get into politics. He looked at the Democrats and he looked at the Republicans. And he probably had the same mindset that a lot of us have about Democrats and Republicans today. He was like, okay, Democrats, they support abortion. I ain't too keen on that abortion thing, but the Republicans, they don't like black people. So who do I want to support? Life before it has a chance to be born, or do I want to support a party that supports white supremacy? And so he turned his back on unborn children and went to the Democrats. That's how I believe it happened. He probably looked at both of them, said, both of them had their shortcomings, but I'd rather support baby killing than to support the specter of white supremacy on the side of the Republicans. And I believe that's how he made his choice to become a Democrat. Because I really do believe that he wanted to get in on the political field, and he made that choice. Now, that's just my opinion. I don't know if that's how he went about doing it or whatever, but it seems kind of odd to me that he had his opinions in the 1970s about abortion, and in less than a decade, he just totally changed on it. Now, I'm not saying a person can't change their mind, but if you call yourself a reverend, you call yourself a preacher of the gospel and whatever, there are just certain things you just don't bend on. You're not going to bend on certain issues. And abortion should be one of those issues you don't bend on. Now, I'm not going to bend on. I'm not going to bend on abortion. You support abortion, you don't get my vote. Well, what about if both candidates support abortion? Then neither one of them gets my vote. That's how I look at it. And I say that with a straight face. I don't say that reluctantly. I don't hesitate when I say that, because I know there's a lot of people out there like, okay, when the election comes, you got to vote for somebody. No, I'm not. That's not how I vote. And I don't see anywhere in the rule book that you just gotta vote for somebody, the better of two evils or anything like that. Nah, I don't see that in the rule book anywhere. Well, you can't complain about the condition that the country's in if you don't vote. Says who? Says who? Shoot, I'm making a statement by not voting for any of you. That's my statement right there. I'm not just going to vote for somebody just for the sake of voting for them. I'm not going to do that. You got to show me what you got to show me what you're standing for. You got to show me what you're about. But if you want to sit there and just bandy around the issues like that, you're not getting my vote. I'm sorry. But back in 1977, Jesse Jackson, he wrote an article, and it says, and this is from Right to Life News, January of 1977. January 1977. I was in third grade then. And it reads like this. The question of life is the question of the 20th century. Race and poverty are dimensions of the life question, but discussions about abortion have brought the issue into focus in a much sharper way. How we will respect and understand the nature of life itself is the overriding moral issue, not of the black race, but of the human race. Wow, Jesse, you sound like you're preaching gospel here. Sound like you're on the right track. The question of abortion confronts me in several different ways. First, although I do not profess to be a biologist, I have studied biology and know something about life from the point of view of the natural sciences. Let me stop right there, because you got people who say, because I'm not in this certain field, I can't really say anything about it. Well, there's this thing called common sense that we all have. You don't need to be a biologist to understand why rain falls out of the sky. You don't have to, or a meteorologist, excuse me. You don't have to be a biologist to understand why birds sing outside or whatever. What's her name? Ketanji Brown Jackson. Someone asked her, "What is a woman?" She was like, "Well, I don't know. I'm not a biologist." You don't need to be a biologist to understand the difference between a man and a woman. And I get this argument sometimes when it comes to evolution. People say, well, I don't see any peer-reviewed papers from you and everything, so you can't really make an argument about this. Well, I don't see any peer-reviewed papers from you either. So, dude, you and I are in the same bucket. You're just going by what you've heard. And I don't have to be a biologist to understand creation or evolution. And people come up and say, oh, well, the scientists say this, and the scientists can get it wrong. The scientists can get it wrong. Look at this issue about global warming. You know, when I was in third grade, when I was in elementary school, they're telling us, oh, we might be headed to a new ice age. I remember that. I remember watching the news, and I think it was David Shoemaker of WJLA TV, Channel 7 up in D.C. He said, could we be headed to another ice age? And less than 20 years later, everybody's like, oh, no. It's global warming, you know. The hole in the ozone is getting bigger, and we're all going to become members of the X-Men if we don't do something about this. That's what they were telling us. So the scientists can get it wrong. Scientists are not gods. And see, that's the problem. We think because this person has a PhD and they gone to college and they gone to graduate school and everything, and they got that PhD above their head while they're tapping on their computer in their office, they think, oh, this guy, he knows what's going on. He's got a PhD in biology. That doesn't mean anything. That just means you turn in your homework on time and you pass all the tests. That's all that means. Doesn't make you an expert. Shoot, you don't even have to go out there on the field for some of these subjects in order to get a degree in that field. So when people come to me, they say, I want to see your peer-reviewed papers. Well, let me see your degree. What college did you go to? Shut up. People think you can't say anything if you don't have a degree in this type of science or that type of science. But there's this thing called common sense that God gave every last one of us. But anyway, let me go on. Second, I am a minister of the... Oh, my goodness. Listen to this, y'all. Listen to this. This is Jesse Jackson talking, y'all. This is Jesse Jackson talking. Second, I am a minister of the gospel and therefore feel that abortion has a religious and moral dimension that I must consider. Oh, my goodness. Listen to this dude. Third, I was born out of wedlock and against the advice that my mother received from her doctor, and therefore abortion is a personal issue for me. It's a personal issue for him. He said this in January of 1977. From my perspective, human life is the highest good, the summum bonum, whatever that means. Human life itself is the highest human good, and God is the supreme good, and God is the supreme good because he is the giver of life. That is my philosophy. Everything I do proceeds from that religious and philosophical premise. Oh my goodness, how the tables turned. Life is the highest good. And therefore, you fight for life using means consistent with that end. I don't know, what is it, UFE? That might be a typo. Life is the highest human good, not on its own naturalistic merits, but because life is supernatural, a gift from God. Oh my goodness, this man sounds like he's preaching the gospel. Therefore, life is the highest human good because life is sacred. Oh my man. And the reason why I keep, pausing like this, because the person that Jesse Jackson became after the 80s is totally against this. Biologically speaking, thousands of male sperms are ejaculated into the female reproductive tract during sexual intercourse, but only once in a while do the egg and sperm bring about fertilization. Some call that connection accidental, but I choose to call it providential. Oh my gosh. It takes 3 to make a baby. A man, get this, y'all. Get this. Let me read this a little slower so that you can let it marinate a little bit. It takes 3 to make a baby. A man, a woman, and the Holy Spirit. I can just end the show right now. I can just end this show right now. Now listen to this dude. He is talking like he was in touch with God in the 1970s. I mean, he's making all the arguments for life that pro-lifers are making today, but we get ridiculed for it. Let me go on. He says, I believe in family planning. I do not believe that families ought to have children, as some people did when I was growing up, by the dozens. I believe in methods of contraception, prophylactics, pills, rhythm, etc. I believe in sex education. We ought to teach it in the home, the school, the church, and on the television. I think that if people are properly educated sexually, they will appreciate the act and know its ultimate function, purpose, and significance. In other words, if you learn about the sexual process and whatever, you'll gain a sense of responsibility. That's basically what I get when I hear that. You're gaining a sense of responsibility. So basically what he's saying is something you don't take lightly. Now, he says he doesn't believe in people having dozens of kids and everything. That ain't anybody's business. If you want, look, you all get married and you and your wife, y'all agree to 15 kids and that, and I have no problem with that. No problem at all. Some people, they get, oh my goodness, did you hear Sheila? She and Donald, they got 10 kids and they about to have another one. What's wrong with that? They're married. Is she complaining about it? Does she love kids? Then that's not your problem. Who was that family? 21 and counting, the Dugars and everything. They had so many kids and whatever. I have no problem with it. If you're married and y'all want to punch in a time card and go to work, I ain't got no problem with that. That is none of my business. You sitting there looking at them, having all them kids by that woman. Well, she don't seem to be unhappy about it. I used to stay in a boarding house, and the landlord, he was having kids left and right. He had 6 kids, and people were sitting there like, why is he having all those kids by that woman? They married. If they want to have that many kids, shoot. All them kids are adults now. And doing good. But here we go. Let me continue on. In the abortion debate, one of the crucial questions is, when does life begin? Uh-oh, here we go. Now listen to this. Jesse Jackson right here. He sounds like a hardcore pro-lifer. Anything growing is living. Therefore, human life begins when the sperm and egg join and drop into the fallopian tube and a pulsation of life take place. Pause for effect. Let me read that again. In the abortion debate, one of the crucial questions is, when does life begin? Anything growing is living. Therefore, human life begins when the sperm and egg join and drop into the fallopian tube and a pulsation of life take place. From that point, life may be described differently as an egg, embryo, fetus, baby, child, teenager, adult, but the essence is the same. The name has changed, but the game remains the same. I'm going to drop it again. Now, he sounds like a hardcore pro-lifer. I wasn't expecting to see all this information here. I knew that Jesse had at one time spoken against abortion, but I just pulled this article up today and I'm reading it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this is Jesse Jackson. Human beings cannot give or create life by themselves. It is really a gift from God. Therefore, one does not have the right to take away, through abortion, that which he does not have the ability to give. Drop it again. Man, I tell you, my mind's being blown away. This guy sounds just like a straight up pro-lifer. He doesn't sound like a pro-choicer. Some argue, suppose a woman does not want to have the baby. They say the very fact that she does not want the baby means that the psychological damage to the child is reason enough to abort the baby. Listen to these next two words. I disagree. Wow. The solution to that problem is not. Oh boy. I'm getting my mind blown away and I'm getting mad at the same time. These are the same arguments pro-lifers make today. The solution to that problem is not to kill the innocent baby, but to deal with her values and her attitude toward life. I don't know what they're saying. Toward life, that which has allowed her not to want the baby. Deal with the attitude that would allow her to take away that which she cannot give. Folks, those of you out there who are pro-lifers, isn't this the same argument we've been making for, I don't know, the past 30, 40, 50 years? Isn't this the same argument? And Jesse is right here saying the same thing that we've been saying for decades. Let me go on. I hope I can make it through this. Some women argue that the man does not have the baby and will not be responsible for the baby after it is born. Therefore, it is all right to kill the baby. Oh, gosh. Again, the logic is off. The premise is that the man is irresponsible. If that is the problem, then deal with making him responsible. Deal with what you are dealing with, not with the weak, innocent, and unprotected baby. I think I need a bucket. I feel like I'm going to throw up. This is crazy. Let me go on. The essence of Jesus's message dealt with this very problem. The problem of the inner attitude and motivation of a person. If in your heart was his central message, the actual abortion effect is merely the logical conclusion of a prior attitude cause that one has toward life itself. Deal with the cause, not merely the effect when abortion is the issue. Folks, I need to take me a little sip. This is crazy. This is crazy. I didn't know I didn't even pre-read this article before I did this show. I didn't expect to read all this. It's almost like I'm reading an article from Lila Rose or any of those other pro-lifers out there. Pleasure, pain, and suffering. Some of the most dangerous arguments for abortion stem from popular judgments about life's ultimate meaning. but the logical conclusion of their position is never pursued. Some people may unconsciously operate their lives as if pleasure is life's highest good and pain and suffering man's greatest enemy. That position, if followed to its logical conclusion, means that which prohibits pleasure should be done away with by whatever means are necessary. By the same rationale, whatever means are necessary should be used to prevent suffering and pain. My position is not to negate pleasure nor elevate suffering, but merely to argue against their being elevated to an ultimate end of life. Because if they're so elevated, anything, including murder and genocide, can be carried out in their name. And I'm going to continue, but one of the main reasons why we have so many out of wedlock births today is because, well, before I say this, if you have any kids, I just would advise you turn them away from here, whatever. I'm not going to get nasty or anything like that, but I'm going to say some things that kids probably don't need to hear. One of the main reasons why we have so many out of wedlock births is because sex is pleasurable. It's probably one of the best physical feelings that you can ever experience in your entire life. And so many people, they want to get that rush of dopamine. That's the pleasure chemical in your brain. Whenever you do something pleasurable, you get a rush of dopamine in your brain. And that's why people engage in sex, because they're trying to get that dopamine. Sex is a drug to a lot of people. Let's just say that. That's why you have so many people. They have multiple partners, because sex is a drug to them and it feels good. And so you got a lot of people who are indulging in sex, and they don't understand all the machinations of why sex exists. Sex does not exist for your pleasure. Pleasure is part of it, but sex exists for procreation. And it's not a bad thing that sex feels good. It's not a bad thing. God created it that way. That's how God made it. But too many of us, we just want the feeling. We want to cop the feel without understanding the responsibility of the action. See, a lot of us, we get out here and we see, oh, he looked good. Oh, she looked good. Y'all get together and y'all do the bingsy bangsy. And you don't realize that in the process of you getting your bing and your bang, that the woman could get pregnant. And you can talk about contraceptives all you want to. You talk about because contraceptives are not 100% effective. They might lessen your chances for getting pregnant, but they're not 100% effective. The only thing that is 100% effective is abstinence. And if you have a sense of responsibility, if you're going to have a sense of responsibility when it comes to matters of having sex, you're going to abstain. Don't listen to these knuckleheads that tell you abstinence doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't. I remember some school system, they said they wanted to start talking about abstinence, and they didn't even do it for a year. Then all of a sudden they say, oh, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. If you got the female factor over here, you got the male factor over there. If they don't come together, the female factor cannot get pregnant. There's no way that's going to happen. The only time that has happened was about 2,000 years ago when Jesus Christ came to this earth to be the sacrifice for sins. That's the only time that happened. And you got some knuckleheads that want to go up there and say, "Oh yeah, Mary had sex with the Holy Ghost," and you're on blasphemous territory when you talk like that. But it had nothing to do with sexual intercourse between Mary and God. But getting back to my point, sex is very pleasurable. But there needs to be a sense of responsibility before you engage in it. First of all, you need to be married. And I know a lot of people out there that will, married? Why do I need to be married? It ain't nothing but a piece of paper. A piece of paper? What do you mean? Marriage is a commitment. And there is no commitment outside of marriage. There's no commitment at all outside of marriage. You can sit there and say, "Oh, this is my boyfriend, and we're in a committed relationship." No, you're not. No, you're not. If you're not married, you're not in a committed relationship. But I love him and he loves me. Well, if you all are in love with one another, you need to get married. If you're in love with one another, you're so in love with him and he's in love with you, you need to get married. Because that's the responsible thing. That's the responsible thing. When you commit to one another, see, a lot of people don't want to get married because they're like, okay, things get tough. I want to have this back door open. I can just leave and absolve myself of responsibility, yada, yada, yada. I don't want to be hooked up to anybody. I want to go out and be a freak. And nah. Sex does not exist for you to get as much of it as you can. Sex exists for procreation. And the only legitimate procreation is that which is committed under the bonds of marriage. But the reason why we have so many out of wedlock births in our society is because people don't know how to control their sex drive. There's not too many men out there that are going to be like, you know what? I can hold off till I get married. I can hold off. When me and my wife got engaged in March of, matter of fact, we're coming up on our 26th anniversary of our engagement in about a week. But when my wife and we got engaged in March of 2004. We didn't engage in the bingsy bangsy during that engagement time. We didn't so much as kiss. We didn't hold hands. We didn't pet and feel on each other. None of that. We didn't do any of that. Now, the day we got married, November the 6th, 2004, which was exactly 8 months later, all bets were off. I'm not going to go into what I mean by that, but all bets were off. So, but we abstained. Well, you can't expect everybody to do that. Well, then you need to learn you need to have a sense of responsibility. You need to have some sense of responsibility because sex, it feels good. And I'll go so far to say it's probably the best physical feeling in the world. But there needs to be a dose of responsibility that goes along with it. That's why the Bible speaks out against fornication and adultery. You're so caught up in sex, you want to get you multiple partners, and you already got a married one at home. You got someone who's married to you at home, who's treating you respectfully and everything, but you got to go out and try something else. No matter which woman you want to sleep with or whatever, guess what? They all got the same thing. No matter how many men you want to sleep with, they all got the same thing. But you need to carry yourself with a dose of responsibility. And this is why we have so many out of wedlock births. Because all people care about is the feeling they get from sex, but they don't understand the consequences of it. That's why you have to plan this thing. And that's why you got so many unwanted pregnancies. That's why people will choose abortion because they were like, oh, I wasn't expecting this. Well, what do you expect then? What are you expecting? Sex is not just something it's not just for your recreation. It's not for your recreation. And we can, we can sit here and talk about it all we want to. Say, but man, oh man, nah, Get rid of your boyfriends and your girlfriends. Stop playing the field. And see, when you commit to somebody, there's a sense of responsibility there. You're like, I'm here for you, and I've chosen you to make a family with. But if you just going out there and sowing your seeds on any field that you see, that's not being responsible. And ladies, stop letting these men sweet talk you. Stop letting them sweet talk you. Telling you if you love me, you'll have sex with me and everything. And men, same thing too. Because some of us, we fall into that too. We fall into that trap too. But you need to learn a sense of responsibility when it comes to commitment, when it comes to marriage, when it comes to family raising, you know. And see, this is the thing that gets me about organizations like Planned Parenthood. The name Planned Parenthood. How in the world are you going to plan to be a parent and you want to kill your child? Someone help me with that one. Someone tell me how that makes any sense. Having an abortion is not family planning. You know what family planning is? It's saying, you know what? I can't have a child right now because it'd be a financial burden on me. So guess what? I plan not to have sex. But what do we do? Oh no, that feeling, boy. Oh man, I gotta quell that feeling. That's how a lot of people use drugs too. That's how they do with drugs. You get that high from that cocaine, and then you just want more, and you want more, and you want more, and you don't understand the responsibility that goes into making those decisions. And then when someone like me comes around and says, you all shouldn't be doing this or whatever, you need to wait till you get married. Oh, you're square. Look, he's 36 years old and he ain't never had none. Someone tried to get me to watch this movie called 40-Year-Old Virgin or something. I don't know what kind of movie. I was like, 40-year-old man, I ain't watching that garbage. People talk about how funny it was. I don't care how funny it is. I'm insulted by the name of the movie. What's so funny about a person who chooses to abstain and wait till he gets married? What's wrong with that? Our society today tells you, something's wrong with you if you're in your 20s and your 30s and you never done the bingsy bangsy. What makes it wrong? What makes it wrong for you to abstain? What's so wrong with it? Let me go here. Let me go back to where I was. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Let me go on with this article. And, I just did a little side, went on a tangent right there and everything. Hey, that's not going to cost you anything. Someone probably needed to hear that. But let me go on with this article because this article is just blasting my mind to pieces. Often, people who analyze and operate in the public sphere, some sociologists, doctors, politicians, etc., are especially prone to argue in these ways. Sociologists argue for population control on the basis of a shortage of housing, food, space, etc. I raise two issues at this point. Number one, it is strange that they choose to start talking about population control at the same time that Black people in America and people of color around the world are demanding their rightful place as human citizens and their rightful share of the material wealth in the world. Number two, people of color are for the most part powerless with regard to decisions made about population control. I disagree with Jesse on that one, but that's okay. Given the history of people of color in the modern world, we have no reason to assume that whites are going to look out for our best interests. Yeah, there it goes with that civil rights in there. The white people ain't going to look out for us. Well, guess what? Their Black people ain't looking out for us either. But anyway, I digress. Politicians argue for abortion largely because they do not want to spend the necessary money to feed, clothe, and educate more people. Why do they need to spend the necessary money to feed? Get a job. Government doesn't feed me and my wife. They never have. We go to work. We make a paycheck. Time to get groceries. Oh, okay, let's go to the grocery store. Boom, boom, boom. The government didn't pay that. So why does the government need to see it necessary to help house and clothe and feed everybody? They don't. If the government would just get out the way, the people can do what they need to do for themselves. Well, what about the people who aren't as fortunate? Well, you got a lot of people out here who want to be lazy and want to look for a handout from the government. I don't want a handout from the government. I really don't. I really don't. But anyway, let me go. Let me continue. Here, arguments for inconvenience and economic savings take precedence over arguments for human value and human life. Wow. I read recently where a politician from New York was justifying abortion because they had prevented 10,000 welfare babies from being born and saved the state $15 million. In my mind, serious moral questions arise when politicians are willing to pay welfare mothers between $300 to $1,000 to have an abortion, but will not pay $30 for a hot school lunch program to the already born children of these same mothers. I think the economic objections are not valid today because we are confronted with a whole new economic problem. The basic and historic economic problem has been the inability to feed everyone in the world, even if the will were there to do so. They could not produce enough to do the job even if they wanted to. An agrarian and disconnected world did not possess the ability to solve the basic economic problem. That was tragic, but hardly morally reprehensible. Today, however, we do not have the same economic problem. Our world is basically urban, industrial, interconnected, and technological, so that we now, generally speaking, have the ability to feed the peoples of the world, but lack the political and economic will to do so. That will require basic shifts of economic and political power in the world, and we are not willing to pay that price, the price of justice. The problem now is not the ability to produce, but the ability to distribute justly. And you can kind of hear his little social rhetoric in this. You can kind of hear his social rhetoric going on in this. Folks, we don't need a government to help us to do anything. All the government is there for is to protect us from those domestic and foreign terrorists, to protect the citizens. Let me be straight on that one, because a lot of people, they think the government, especially the U.S. government, is supposed to protect everybody, no matter if you're a citizen or not. But the responsibility of this government is to its citizens. But the government is not there to take care of you. We can take care of ourselves. That's why I'm against all this health care and everything. People keep talking, oh, everybody has a right to health care. Yeah, you do. But you also have a right to your paycheck. You go, you work hard, and then here comes the government. You get your paycheck. When you get your paycheck, the government has already put its grubby hands in there, and they taking out what they think you owe them. They done already gone out and took their proportion. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, think about it. When you get your paycheck, let's say you make $20 an hour. You work 40 hours a week. That's $800 a week. But you don't take home $800 a week. You know what you take home? You probably take home $600 or maybe even $500. Because the government already went in and they took their portion out. Almost as if it's your obligation to pay your government. Now, I'm not against taxing to a certain amount, but when they come up here and they say they have the more right to your money than you have to it, and you're the one that worked for it. You're the one that worked for that money, not them. I have more right to my money than any rinky-dink government official does. But when you get your check, they done already stuck their hands in there. And they went, oh, we're doing this for healthcare. Oh, we're doing this for welfare. And now, first of all, I'm like this. I should be given the right to choose who I want to help. People want to sit there and talk about, oh, I thought you were a Christian. How come you don't want the government to help people out? Because that's not their job. Now, if I had enough money, I could help out more people. I won't have to worry about health care if the government would stop digging their hands into my hard-earned dollars as if I work for them. I don't work for you. I work for my family, me and my wife, and whoever I choose to help out. And that is none of your cotton picking business. How much money I make or how much I give to you. Now, do I believe in some taxation? Yeah, I do. But I'm more of a consumer tax type of person. When you go and buy goods and services, that's when you pay your tax. And why in the world do we have to do income tax every year? The government already knows who owes and who doesn't. Because you put a mistake on your tax form or whatever, they're gonna penalize you. Think about it. Why do I have to go through the paperwork and say, okay, government? And all the government is doing, they take it and say, oh, okay, yeah. He got it right. He got it right. But then you don't get it. If you don't get it right, oh, wait a minute. Okay, let's give them a $10,000 penalty. As if we can just go into our backyards and just pull down money and say, okay, government, here you go. I don't, See, I think a little deeper about these things. You know, the average person like, oh, the government, the government can get by with taking 10% out of it. They shouldn't be taking anything out of your check. How in the world you gonna sit there and work hard? You know, every week on Friday I come home. I'm a lazy rascal. I'm a lazy rascal when I come home on Friday because I am beat. I'm tired. Weekend comes. I don't want to do anything. Of course, I'm going to push myself to get things done that need to be done. Don't get me wrong on that. But when I come home on the weekends, usually I don't want to deal with anyone. And I'm working hard and I get my paycheck. I'm supposed to get 800 something dollars a week. And I'm only bringing home $500 or $600 a week. That's mind boggling to me. I'm the one to fill out the job the job application. I'm the one who had to go through to get the interview, make sure my resume was straight, and then when it comes time for me to get paid, the government's like, "Oh, thank you. Okay, here you go. Here's your little piece right here." No, it shouldn't be like that. It should not be like that. You should be able to, before you give any money to the government, you should have that money in your hands before they touch it. But see, we're subject to the state now. These people are crazy. They really are. And a lot of people who have the common sense, they're not going to say anything. They're not going to say anything. Be like, oh, we don't want to rock the boat. Well, I say rock it. I say capsize that boat, sink that boat. It's like the government is God. We are your gods. You give, you pay tribute to us. You bow down the knee to us. We don't care about that thing y'all call God up there in the big blue. We are your gods. It's crazy mess, you know. It really is. Let me go on. Psychiatrists, social workers, and doctors often argue for abortion on the basis that the child will grow up mentally and emotionally scarred. People, haven't we been those of us who are against abortion, haven't we been making these arguments for the last 50 years? These are the same arguments we've been making. And here's Jesse Jackson saying this in 1977. This is 4 years after Roe v. Wade. But who of us is complete? If incompleteness were the criteria for taking life, we would all be dead. And I agree. If you can justify abortion on the basis of emotional incompleteness, then your logic could also lead you to killing for other forms of incompleteness, blindness, crippleness, old age. I remember I was debating with someone about abortion, and they were like, well, if we don't have abortion, a lot of these kids, they're going to grow up in poverty. But guess what? We still got kids in poverty today. We still got kids in poverty. Ask them, do they want to be dead? They'll probably say, no, I don't want to be dead. These kids are going to grow up in poverty. They're going to grow up in poverty. Kids around the world are living in poverty. That doesn't mean you got to kill them. Oh, you're going to grow up in poverty. We're going to kill you. Oh, you're going to grow up and you're going to have Down syndrome. We're going to kill you. Oh, you're going to have some genetic disease. You're not going to live to see 10 years old anyway, so we might as well kill you now. Let's not give you a chance because you're going to die anyway. Yeah, we're psychics here. We're the modern day prophets. We know what's going to happen to you, so we're just going to go ahead and kill you right now. And we're doing a service to everybody else. Life is public and universal. There are those who argue that the right to privacy is of higher order than the right to life. I do not share that view. I believe that life is not private, but rather it is public and universal. If one accepts the position that life is private and therefore you have the right to do with it as you please, one must also accept the conclusion of that logic. That was the premise of slavery. You could not protest the existence or treatment of slaves on the plantation because that was private and therefore outside your right to be concerned. What he's saying here is you say, oh, slavery is wrong. And slave masters say, you mind your business. That's what a lot of abortionists say. We ain't hurting nobody. Who we hurting? We ain't hurting anybody. Yeah, you are. You're hurting the most vulnerable of every one of us. Another area that concerns me greatly, namely because I know how it has been used with regard to race, is the psycholinguistics involved in this whole issue of abortion. If something can be dehumanized through the rhetoric used to describe it, then the major battle has been won. Oh my gosh. And you all wonder why I call Jesse Jackson a sellout. Here's your sellout right here. Here's your sellout right here. Because by the time he started running for president in the 80s, he had totally gone against this rhetoric. Totally. Him and his civil rights goons, they were totally for abortion. If something can be dehumanized through the rhetoric used to describe it, then a major battle has been won. So when American soldiers can drop bombs on Vietnam and melt the faces and hands of children into a hunk of rolling protoplasm, and in their minds say they have not maimed or killed a fellow human being, something is terribly wrong, and something terribly wrong and sick has gone on in that mind. That is why the Constitution called us 3/5 human. No, the Constitution did not call black people 3/5 of a human. Read the Constitution again. Show me where it says that we were considered to be 3/5 of a human being. Show the part to me in the Constitution that says black people, specifically black people, are 3/5 of a person. It's not in there. And that was not what was implied either. But let me go on. And then whites further dehumanized us by calling us niggers. Something that we refer, it's a word we use to refer to one another even to this day. And it ain't just the white people. I very rarely hear white people use the word nigger. Very rarely. In my entire life, have I very rarely heard a white person call someone nigger. The place where I heard a white person call a black person nigger, guess where it was? On TV. Only 2 times in my entire life has a white person referred to me as a nigger. It was part of the dehumanizing process. The first step was to distort the image of us as human beings in order to justify what they wanted to do and not even feel like they had anything and not feel like they had done anything wrong. Those advocates of taking life prior to birth do not call it killing or murder. They call it abortion. Oh my goodness. Oh man. They further never talk about aborting a baby because that would imply something human. Oh, wow. Yeah, Jesse Jackson was a sellout. Let me go. Wait a minute. They further never talk about aborting a baby because that would imply something human. Rather, they talk about aborting the fetus. Fetus sounds less than human and therefore can be justified. But guess what? Fetus comes from I think it's an Italian word, if I'm correct. If I'm incorrect, just let me know. But I think it's an Italian word that means little person. So when you call something a fetus, you're still calling it a person. But we've dampened the meaning of that word to mean just nothing but a strawberry, a little clump of cells. I mean, you think about it, we're all nothing but a clump of cells, every last one of us. Brain cells, bone cells, heart cells, skin cells. We're nothing but a bunch of cells anyway. And Jesse sounds like he's kind of, he's still on his racial thing right here, but he's making a point here. He's making some very good points too. In conclusion, even if one does take life by aborting the baby as a minister of Jesus Christ, I must also inform and or remind you that there is a doctrine of forgiveness. Why didn't he talk about that with his civil rights cohorts about forgiveness? I digress. The God I serve is a forgiving God. The men who killed President John F. Kennedy and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. can be forgiven. Everyone can come to the mercy seat and find forgiveness and acceptance. But, and this may be the essence of my argument, suppose one is so hard-hearted and so indifferent to life until he assumes that there is nothing for which to be forgiven. What happens to the mind of a person and the moral fabric of a nation that accepts the aborting of the life of a baby without a pang of conscience? What kind of a person and what kind of a society will we have 20 years hence if life can be taken so casually? I don't know, Jesse. Why don't you tell us about that? Because in less than 10 years, you have gone totally against what you're describing here. It is that question, the question of our attitude, our value system, and our mindset with regard to the nature and worth of life itself, that is the central question confronting mankind. Failure to answer that question affirmatively may leave us with a hell right here on earth. Those are Jesse Jackson's words, not my words, not anyone else's. Those are Jesse Jackson's words. Now, you can understand, or I hope you understand, why I deem Jesse Jackson as the sellout, the turncoat. And, when Jesse Jackson died last week, a lot of people were talking about, oh, yeah, Jesse, and a lot of people want to put this man in heaven, which when someone passes away, I am not the type of person that's going to put someone in heaven or hell. The Bible says, work out your own soul salvation with fear and trembling. My concern for a person when they die, it's no longer my concern because they have gone on to their eternal resting place, to their eternal reward. Yes, I'll miss them and everything like that. But my thing, and some people say, well, I'll give you a good example. Last year when Charlie Kirk was murdered and everything, and people were like, oh, Charlie Kirk is in the arms of Jesus right now and everything. And to be honest with you, I have no problem with someone saying that, but I get real cautious about that because I don't want to be someone, because, there's a scripture in the Bible that says there are going to be people that say, Lord, Lord, didn't we do this for you? Didn't we do that? Didn't we do this? And then he'll look at them and say, hey, I never knew you. I don't know who you are. That's why I'm so cautious about putting someone in hell or heaven or whatever. I won't be surprised if Charlie Kirk is there. I won't be surprised, but I try to hold off on that. My concern is not about saying who's in heaven or who's in hell. My concern is, am I in right standing with God? That's my main concern. Am I standing right with God? I can sit there and talk about Charlie Kirk all I want to, or Jesse Jackson or any of the rest of them. But is my life right? That's who I'm concerned about. And of course, I can be concerned about other people too. Tell them, hey, this is not the life you need to be living. Accept Jesus into your life. You know, do my part to make sure the gospel is out there. I know there are a lot of people probably listen to this show and you don't believe in Christianity. Okay, well, I'm sorry, but I'm a Christian. And I take my Christianity a little more seriously than your average person does. I don't just banty that word around, because you got a lot of people out here saying that Jesse Jackson was a Christian, because he was a minister and everything. But one thing I never heard Jesse Jackson speak on was about the saving grace of Jesus Christ. I never heard him say anything to that effect. Never. All I heard is civil rights, civil rights, civil rights, black this, white that, black this, white that, black this, white that. And I believe the reason why Jesse Jackson turned on, he sold out the unborn, was because he was getting money from the Democrat Party. Yes, I do believe that. I do believe that. He cared more about the accolades of the Democrat Party than he did about the lives of unborn kids. And just like with anybody else, they'll probably do Al Sharpton the same way. They'll probably do Maxine Waters the same way, Jasmine Crockett. Oh yeah, these people this and everything. Oh, let's honor them, and let's I don't know if they're going to have a Jesse Jackson Day, turn that into a national holiday. I really don't care if they do or not. You do it, you do it. If you don't, you don't. I don't care about Martin Luther King Day. I don't care about Black History Month. I'm not saying we shouldn't learn about these figures, these public figures or anything like that. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is I don't care about Martin Luther King Day. Like that's an important day. Like he's a god or something. I don't care about that. I don't care about Black History Month. Like I said, I'm glad today's the last day, but every year the thing that gets me about Black History Month, we always hear about the same people, and it's usually a political bent to it. We don't hear about people like Wayne Williams or Thomas Sowell. Don't hear that much about Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver. We always got to hear about Medgar Evers and Martin Luther King. You really don't hear about Malcolm X. And I'm not a Malcolm X fan. I don't agree with what he talked about. But Malcolm X made some things. I was like, well, dog, if I had a choice between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, I'd probably go with Malcolm X. I don't think anybody should be following either one of them. Yes, and I'm talking about Martin Luther King too, because people keep saying, "Oh well, Martin Luther King talked about equality and all this and everything." Martin Luther King wasn't, everything that he was cracked up to be. He was not the saint that people make him out to be. Hey, girl. Hey, what's up? Mm. What's up? Hmm? Hey, give me a few minutes. I got to finish my show. Okay, I got to finish my show. But anyway, but yeah, I'm not saying you shouldn't learn about those public figures or whatever, but Martin Luther King Jr. he's not a hero of mine. I don't have pictures of Martin Luther King up in my house or anything like that. The only person that I respect, that I give the respect to, is Jesus. That's it. Martin Luther King was a flawed man. Malcolm X was a flawed man. Jesse Jackson was a flawed man. Al Sharpton's flawed. Benjamin Crump is flawed. Raphael Warnock, he's flawed. All of them are flawed. But we give them over the top praise because they're about civil rights. Folks, we look, we need to stop the civil rights thing. Look, if you just preach the gospel, that takes care of the civil rights. about 3 weeks ago, I had some friends invite me to Greensboro because they wanted me to, preach. And I'm not a preacher or whatever, but they see something in me. They're like, Vincent, you're a good teacher. You're a good teacher. And I'm not a person get up here and be like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. No, but they wanted me to get up there and teach and whatever. And I did. I got up there, I taught, and got a couple of phone calls. Oh man, that was good. That was good. And I'm like, okay, to God be the glory. I don't look at myself as being over the top or being someone needs to be put on a pedestal or anything. And see, that's why I don't like putting anyone on a pedestal. I might say something about what something I agree with you and everything. I might say that, but I'm not going to put anybody in the place that I need to put Jesus in. I'm not going to do that. I'm just not going to do that because I'm a Christian. And Christianity is something I don't take lightly. But there are going to be a lot of people that they might get offended at me. Uh-oh. Hey, Pookie. Hey, I know you want some attention. But I know a lot of people probably get offended with me because I say something negative about Jesse Jackson or Martin Luther King and whatever. And you can have at it. But guess what? When I stand before when Judgment Day comes, I'm not going to be standing before Martin Luther King or Jesse or Malcolm or any of the rest of them. It's going to be me front and center in front of God. Vincent, this is what you did in your life. Did you carry my word? Did you do this? Did you? And the thing I don't want to hear is, I don't know you. That's what I do not want to hear that. I do not want to hear that. I don't want to hear, I don't know you, Vincent. I don't know who are you again? Who are you? Now, if Jesse didn't repent before he died, if he didn't repent, then he's probably suffering in hell right now. Well, I thought you said you didn't put people in hell. I'm not putting them in hell. I'm just saying if he didn't repent. I'm saying if he didn't repent. I don't know if he repented or not before he died. But if he didn't, he's suffering in hell right now. Even though he could speak them great swelling words and say this and he knew how to carry a tune in his preaching and everything. But I'm not going to put him in heaven or hell, because I wasn't there on his deathbed or anything like that. I don't know Jesse. Excuse me. I don't know Jesse. Jesse didn't know me. And so I don't owe him any, I really don't owe him any obeisance. Is that the word, obeisance or whatever? I don't know Jesse. I never met him, never seen him. The only time I seen Jesse is on TV. Girl. But that's the only time I've seen him. I've read about him. I've seen him on TV and stuff like that. But that's as far as I know Jesse Jackson. And when people get offended because you say things about Jesse Jackson, well, just because Jesse Jackson was a public figure, which means he is susceptible to any type of criticism. Anybody has a right to criticize him. And just because you're criticizing him doesn't mean you're disrespecting him. You're pointing some things out. You're saying, okay, look at this, And I just pointed that out with this article I read, and this article has blown my mind. I'm gonna have to print this article up. I'm gonna have to print this article up, and I'm gonna keep it in a safe place because this article just blew my mind. I mean, Jesse sounded like a hardcore pro-lifer in this article. I didn't know it was going to be to this extent. I really didn't think it would be. But have they? I'm not sure if they had his funeral already. Have they already had his funeral? I'm not sure if they had it. But people gonna be like, "Oh, I saw that funeral at Jesse Jackson. It was beautiful and everything." Okay, well, it probably is. It probably is. But how beautiful a funeral is doesn't determine if that person has gone on to the eternal reward. It doesn't determine if he's gone to heaven or not. That's why I tell people when I die, just put me in the ground. Just you know, Bible says from you come from the dust, you're going to return to it. I don't need no one dressing me up in no coffin, spending $10,000 for a funeral. Look, I don't need that. I mean, I die, people going to be, you're going to have people going to cry over you and everything. You know what? They don't need to be paying that money for no funeral. Just put me in the ground. Have me pushing daisies up literally. Find a piece of ground, dig a hole, throw me in it. You might want to wrap me up in a cloth or whatever. That's okay. But just wrap me up, throw me in a hole, cover me up, say, oh, we want to remember Vincent this day, yada, yada, yada. Then one day, some years later, people come around and say, oh, those are some beautiful flowers. Yeah, Vincent's helping me grow the flowers. He donated his body to science. Those some nice looking tulips you got over there. Yeah, that's Vincent. That's Vincent right there. I really don't want. I really, because if you're going to cry over me or whatever, you're going to miss me and everything like that. To me, it's an added pain that you had to pay $10,000 just to put someone in the ground, and I see that, I'm like, this is a dead body. This person is dead. Well, you want to be put away nice? I don't care. I'm going to be in my eternal reward, no matter where I end up. I am not going to care how I look in that casket. I do not care. Just wrap me up, throw me in the ground. Let the bugs come out, the worms and everything. Let them eat up on me and everything. You don't even have to put a marker there. You don't even have to put a gravestone or whatever. Just say, them flowers right there, that's my memorial right there, because that's Vincent. That's Vincent feeding my flowers right there. That's just how I see it. But and that's the reason why I'm not too keen about putting people in heaven or hell when they die and everything. You never know, because you never know. But having said all that, I'm not a person who's going to worship at the altar of my blackness. I'm just not. And I've been saying that for years. I've been saying that for some time now. I don't care about how black I am. I don't care. I don't care about my blackness. I'm not going to use it to. I'm not going to use it to push my victimhood. I'm not going to use it to make excuses for my shortcomings. I'm not going to use it to set the course for my emotions. And I said so many times on this show that, yeah, I'm a black man. Yeah, okay, I'm black, but I didn't ask to be this way. Does that mean I hate being black? No, I don't hate being black. And I wish people would stop saying that. You hate being black. You hate being black. God made you black. Okay, well, yeah, he did. God did make me black. I'm not looking at God saying, God, why'd you make me black? Huh? What? I don't want to be black. I want to be yellow. I don't care. I don't care about the blackness. That's why, anyone come up to me, they say, Vincent, turn in your black card. Look, you can have my black card. Come grab it. I'll leave it out on the front porch for you. Come pick it up. Because I don't identify by my blackness. I'm an individual. I got my own hopes and dreams and aspirations, things I want to do. Excuse me. I don't get caught up in that. I don't care about, how much respect a black person is getting. I don't care. If you don't like me because I'm black, okay, well, hey, that's your problem, not mine. Sure sucks being you. I'm sorry, I can pray for you and everything, but I don't care if you don't like me because I'm black. I don't feel some kind of way because, oh, you're a black dude. You're chocolate. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I don't like black people. Okay, well, I'm not the kind of person that's going to be like, he said he doesn't like black people. I'm calling the police. I'm going to make a big ruckus about this. I'm going to get on Channel 5 News. I was walking in the mall and this white man saw me. He said, I don't like you because you're black. Me suing you because you don't like me because of my skin color, it's not going to benefit me at all. I might get some publicity. And see, that's the reason why a lot of these people, get out here and they do what they do because they get publicity. I don't care about the publicity. If I go to a restaurant, and I don't think it's too many of them like this, but if I go to a restaurant, they say, "Hey, you black nigger, I don't want you up in here." Okay, all right. Mm. I'm not gonna make a big fuss because there are a whole bunch of other. For every restaurant that will not accept me because I'm black, I guarantee you, there's probably 100,000 other restaurants who be willing to have me as a customer. Now, if someone comes up and they say, "Vince, you ever been to that restaurant?" I say, "Yeah, I've been there." So, how's the food over there? Oh, I don't know because they didn't let me in there because I'm black. What? Did you call the civil? Did you call the NAACP? No, I don't need to call them. I know there are other places where I can go to, they're just happy to have me as a customer as anybody else. I I don't need to go over there. I don't need to call the government and tell them, hey, these people they won't allow black people in there. So, but I'll tell people, hey, that restaurant, you want to be careful. They don't allow black people in there. But I'm not going to call the police or civil rights lawyers and all that and everything and sue the restaurant for millions of dollars. And then they tell them, oh, you got to serve black people in there. I'll be like, nah, I don't want their food. Shoot, y'all over there making them wanting to serve me and everything. I don't want to go there. Shoot, I don't want to eat that food now. Shoot. Hey, Vince, you know that restaurant? We can go there now. No, okay, you can go ahead. I'm not going. Be like, oh, they're them black people. Okay, yeah, I got something for you. Put a little something in your tuna casserole or something. Put my little special ingredient to your shrimp chow mein or whatever they're serving. Nah, if you had to force somebody to accept me anywhere, I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there. If I go into a white neighborhood and all the white people say, we don't want you in this neighborhood, I'll be like, okay, well, all right. Well, then I just won't be in your neighborhood. No, Vincent, you gotta fight that thing. Nah, what do I need to fight for? What do I need to fight for? If they don't want me here, me coming up here and suing them for millions of dollars, that's not going to get them to change their mind. Oh, he's suing me for $10 million. I think I'll change my mind. That's not going to get them to change their mind. If they don't want me in there because I'm a black person, well, okay. You can have your little white neighborhood. But shoot, there are probably black neighborhoods wouldn't want to accept me either. But, and I guess you all can get my point. I don't care. I don't care. I really don't. We don't like you black people. Okay. All right. See, and see, this is the problem I have with certain sports organizations, namely the NFL. They got to stop racism in their end zones. You're not going to stop racism. And see, whenever we think of racism, we're always thinking about the white on black variety. We never think about the other way around, black on white, because we've convinced ourselves, oh, black people can't be racist. Yes, they can. In some situations, they're way more racist than white folks are. I know this for a fact. Well, they might be smiling in your face, but behind closed doors, they probably talking behind your back. Okay, well, that's their problem. I don't care about what they're saying about me when I'm not around. I don't care. As long as you treat me with respect, I don't care. Yeah, they smiling in your face now, but when they go home, they talking behind your back. Okay, let them talk. Like I said, that's their problem. It ain't my problem. It's not keeping me from. I don't stay up late at night and look up and I wonder if them white people are talking about me. Oh, wow. Yeah, I wonder if they are talking about me. They said some things and they got a funny look on their. They're probably talking about. I don't care. Go ahead, talk about me. Say anything you want to about me. But see, this is the type of maturity. This is the type of maturity we need to major in our black communities. We're so caught up in our feelings. We're so caught up in being offended. We're so caught up in the victimhood and everything. And every time something happens to a black person, oh, look, y'all, I don't care. I saw a white police officer today. I went to pick up some breakfast, and I saw him in a parking lot. I came up to him. I rolled down my window. He rolled down his. I said, "Hey, sir, thank you for the job you're doing." He was like, "Thank you." But we demonize the police, and yes, we got crooked cops out there. Yes, we do. Probably got too many of them out there. We probably got too many of them out there. But I think the number of good cops outweighs the number of bad cops out there. I really do believe that. I really do believe that. But I don't care if you're a white cop or black cop or whatever. I don't care. And I was just I was just going through the numbers today. I said, you know what? The last time I got a ticket in Durham, the last time I got a ticket in Durham, that's the city I live in right now. The last time I got a ticket in Durham was in 2008. That's the last time I got a ticket in Durham. Now, the last time I got a ticket overall was in 2013 when I was in Alabama, and I still don't like that one because I don't like getting caught by the cops out of state. But when they when I saw the amount of that ticket that I had to pay when I got pulled over by the cops in Alabama, and I said, yeah, it might be a high price, but I'm gonna pay this thing because I don't want to be driving back to Alabama. But the last time I got a ticket in Durham was in 2008. And I got two of them that year. One time I was parked in a taxi zone. I didn't even notice it. I come home, I come, from doing my excursion. I come back and say, wait a minute, why I got a ticket on my window? And then my eye look, oh, it's a taxi zone. I didn't even know it was a taxi zone. But you know what? I could sit there and argue and say, oh, well, I didn't know it was a taxi zone. I didn't know. Shoot, I paid it. And then not long after that, I got pulled over for speeding. And I didn't fuss with the officer. I didn't fuss with him. Because I would like to think I wasn't speeding, but I probably was. And I don't think he just picked me out saying, let me get this black person right here. Maybe he doesn't know how fast he's going. He's doing the speed limit, but maybe he doesn't know that. And I'll just pull him over and just say he was doing this. I probably was doing 51 miles an hour. I was doing 51 and 35. Now, the cop that pulled me over, he didn't seem too friendly. And a lot of people, they'll look at that and say, yeah, see, I told you they're racist. Man, he probably would be like that with a white person. But I didn't sit there and fuss with him or anything. And I believe 10 minutes, he was gone. Boom. I look at these people on the internet. You want to see some stupid black people? Just go to YouTube and pull up any of these police videos. You'll see some very stupid black folks. Now, there's stupid white folks too. Stupid Hispanic folks. I haven't seen too many stupid Asian folks. Come to think of it, I haven't seen too many stupid Asian folks, but I see stupid black folks. I see stupid white folks. I see stupid Hispanics. But especially the black folks. You pull them over. What are you pulling me over for? Can I see your identification? I'll give you my identification. Can you tell me why you pull? Give me your identification. And then you find out they don't have no ID. I don't understand people who go out driving and they don't have their ID on them. I don't understand that to save my life. And here's the thing too. You go out there and you disobey the traffic laws. What do you think is going to happen? The police are going to pull you over. You know you don't have a driver's license. And instead of you going out there saying, you know what, I ain't got my driver's license, so I better be careful. I'm not saying you should get away with your crime. I'm not saying that. But you just go out there and you drive like, okay, yeah, I just drive any old kind of way, shoot. And a police officer pull you over and you sitting there fussing with the police officer. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. Why you pull me over? Why you pull me over? And a lot of these people, they would have just gotten by with a traffic infraction. They would have just gotten by with a ticket, but they want to sit there and get in the police officer's face. They want to sit there and fuss with the police officer. I'm sitting there like, oh gosh. Talking about, you need to read my rights. No, the only time they need to read your rights is when they're about to ask you a question. That's the only time they need to read you your rights. You hear these people, oh, I know my rights. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't know your rights. Now, you think you should be getting away with everything simply because you're black. Because you think because you're black, we gone through slavery and Jim Crow and all that and civil rights and everything. So every crime that we commit, the police shouldn't even be bothered with us because we already suffering. That's what it seems like their thinking is like. And I sit there, I listen, I look at them. Look, police officer asks you for your license. Oh, I don't have my license. Oh, you don't? Okay, get out the car. Okay. But what do? Oh, no, I ain't getting out because, the police officer, they killing us black folks. They are? How many black folks get killed by the police every year? How many? I can guarantee you it's not even 100. They killing us. They killing us. They killing us. No, they're not. No, we're killing us. And I think more black people get killed by other black people in 1 month than were killed by the entire history of the Ku Klux Klan in just 1 month. I guarantee you. But we always want to talk about the Ku Klux Klan and everything. How many people have they killed? How many people did the Ku Klux Klan kill last year? How many? How many white people killed black people last year? Okay. So tell me, how many black people killed black people last year? Because I can guarantee you it's more black people killing white people than the other way around. I guarantee you that. I already shared with you all, those two knucklehead kids, 11 and 13 years old, broke out my window in my SUV a couple of months ago. 11 and 13 years old. What are they doing out at that time of night? Quarter to 10. Cold as all get up. 2 days from Christmas. It was just them two boys just walking out there. What are they doing out there? Where were their parents? How come their parents didn't say, hey, you're supposed to be here? I don't want you going out in the street. But see, that's the problem with our kids today. It's the parents. And every week I'm reminded of it. I watch a lot of YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube, and I keep hearing the same stories over and over again. I was watching something today about this lady. She was wondering why her child got a low grade on writing. Oh, she knows her name and all. And this lady, she gonna write a letter to the teacher, and she didn't even know how to put together a proper sentence. She spelled what WAT instead of WHAT, and she talking about, oh, I graduated from high school, and I even got some college, and then she gonna give people watching the video the middle finger. You can't even spell what. Yeah, you probably did graduate from high school. You probably got pushed through because people didn't want to deal with you anymore. I said, now look at this. This is what's and not only that, she is complaining. She's showing this on social media. I think it was TikTok. And her little girl right there doing her homework right there. And we wonder what's wrong with these kids today. Because their parents ain't grown up. Their parents got an attitude, and they pass that attitude down to their kids. And then their kids get disrespectful. And then when the kids, meet up with a negative consequence of their attitude, now we want to talk about Black Lives Matter and all this and everything. But their lives didn't matter that much for you to be a proper parent to them at home. Must not have mattered that much because you're not being a good parent at home. And we teaching our kids to be disrespectful, teaching them this garbage. And then we think we're supposed to get away with it because we's black people, because we went through so much. You ain't go through anything. Only thing you did was let some man lay up with you, plop the seed in your field, and now you got the fruit of that seed. He done gone on to conquer someone else, and you're not mature enough to be a parent, and you're sitting here raising a little monster. And then when that little monster becomes an adult, they're a worse monster than you are. And then when they get shot down because they did something stupid, you want to sit there, oh, my baby. Where was your baby? Where's your baby when they were growing up? How come you didn't teach your baby any respect? How come you didn't teach your baby any responsibility? This is why we got so many bad parents in the black community, because they don't want to be parents. They don't want to be parents. And then the teachers got to put up with them. And then you got the administrators at these schools who are willing to throw these teachers up under the bus in order to please the parents. And then you got the parents at home, they're afraid of their kids. I saw this case where this kid His stepfather told him to go to bed. This ain't a black kid. This is a white kid. Told him to go to bed. He wanted to play his Nintendo Switch. The dad took it away from him. This boy, 11 years old. 11 years old. Pulls out a gun and shoots his stepfather. Kills him. Because he wouldn't let him play his Nintendo Switch. Dude, you need to go to bed. Boy, I tell you, when my parents told me I needed to go to bed, there are a couple of times I may have bucked up and everything, but it wasn't the norm because I had crazy parents. I'm going to count to 5. 1. Before he could finish saying 1, I'm in that bed. Because my parents were crazy. But there were a lot of things that, my parents did that I don't agree with. But there were some things that they did teach me, which make me out to be the man I am today. Teach you respect and everything. Some of their methods, I still don't agree with it to this day because I don't believe going overboard with your children. I think there's a reason why patience and parenting begin with the same letter of the alphabet. When you're a parent, you need to be patient. If you're not willing to be patient, you shouldn't be a parent. You shouldn't be. But of course, we don't care about that because we love to feel good. We want to cop that feel because it feels so good. And then we have kids and we're not patient to have them. And that's where the abuse comes in. That's where the neglect, that's where all that comes in at. Because all you cared about was to feel good. But then a result of your feel good is standing before you now. And now all of a sudden you're like, oh, this ain't what I bargained for. So then you should have taken the responsibility, said, you know what, I'm not ready for this. So I got to stay away from it. Anyway, folks, wow. This 2 hours went by pretty quick. Next week, hopefully at this time, I should have another edition of True Sharks Radio. Black by color only. And if you're listening to this program and you hear something I say, if you hear something that I say that's said out of turn or that's wrong or whatever, look, you all don't worry about hurting my feelings or anything like that. Call me out on it. Call me out. And I'm not talking about stupid stuff either. Just call me out on it and say, Vincent, I heard you say this and you were wrong. And tell me if you're wrong. Tell me how I'm wrong. I have no problem with that. But don't just take my word for it because I say it. Go out there, check it out for yourself. Check out what I say. Do your due research, your due study and everything. Don't just sit there and say I'm wrong and you can't tell me why I'm wrong. You say I'm wrong because you feel like I'm wrong. No, tell me how I'm wrong, okay? But anyway, I'm going to end the show on that note. Next week, what is next week? Next week is the 7th. Next week is March the 7th. And if I'm correct, next weekend, our clocks go ahead with daylight savings time. I wish they would stop that, but hey. But yeah, next week, March the 7th. And I'm reminded that's my brother's birthday. How old would my brother be? Oh, knothead rascal. 56 years old. He'll be 56 years old. Still thinks he's 26, but hey, I digress. But anyway, you all take care of yourselves. Stay safe out there. This is Vincent E. Brown. I'm signing off. Until the next time, I'll see you on The Rebound. You are listening to WVEB True Sharks Radio.